Welcome to Hope for Recovery, a 12-step workshop sponsored by the Saturday Serenity Meeting of Eating Disorders Anonymous, which is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they might solve their common problems and help others to recover from their eating disorders. Information about EDA can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. Handouts for all sessions of this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. And now, here's today's workshop. Welcome to week 6 of our 14-week Hope for Recovery workshop. Today, we're beginning our work on step 4. We will spend 3 weeks on step 4. My name is Ed, and I live in St. Augustine, Florida, and I am recovering from an eating disorder. Please join me for a moment of silence. Please remember to turn your camera off if you're moving about or doing anything distracting. This workshop is being recorded to create an audio version. So if you choose to share, your voice may be heard on the recording. The handouts for all workshop sessions are available at edahopeforrecovery.com. Workshop guidelines can also be found in your handout. Regina and I will both be leading today's workshop.
Hi, everyone. I'm Regina. I live in San Diego, California, and I'm a grateful recovered member of Eating Disorders Anonymous. Just want to let you know the exciting news that the YouTube video of step 3 and step 10 part 1 are now up, as well as the audio recordings in a different location that you are all well aware of by now. So let's give the recording. There's about 20 people putting on this workshop, and there's subcommittees and the record. And dear Ed, he's the jack of all trades. He's the Ed of all trades. He's like on every subcommittee, and including the recording committee. And so let's give a shout out to the recording committee. We've got 4 videos now, and Sal and Marie are also working so hard. I do not ask them how many hours they put in because I don't want to feel bad. All right, that said, let's take a moment to review what we have learned thus far.
We have become aware of the importance of taking care of our basic needs. We have learned that balance is our goal and that recovery is about feelings, not food. We have acquired new tools to help us process our feelings in healthy ways. We have learned the value of a morning quiet time, focusing on what is going right and completing a daily inventory. We have learned we can do a spot check inventory, which is useful for dealing with hot emotions.
Let's also review what we've done up to this point in the workshops.
We have admitted we were powerless over our eating disorders and that our lives had become unmanageable. We have come to believe that with the help of God, a higher power, or a higher purpose, we can recover. We have decided to rely on this help, as well as the help of our peers and this fellowship, to go all in, doing the work laid out in the remaining steps. Now in step 4, we're going to go deeper. I will read the long version of this step from Appendix A in the EDA Big Book. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. We looked at why we had gotten stuck so we would be less likely to get stuck again. We looked at our fears and why we were afraid, our lies and why we had told them, our shame and guilt and why we had them. This step is the searchlight that reveals the blockages in our connection to God.
While step 4 does require considerable effort, I think it will become clear that it is well worth the effort. I have asked Sharon B. to read the next 3 slides about the purpose of step 4.
Purpose of step 4. Sorry, I'm Sharon and I have an eating disorder. Our purpose in step 4 is to find what has been causing our emotional disturbance so that we can use our new frame of reference to define a sane response or resolution to life's inevitable challenges. That's from the EDA Big Book, page 137. We are finding and preparing to let go of everything that has been keeping us from being able to handle life on life's terms with dignity and grace. That's from the EDA Big Book, page 132. Additionally, some benefits of step 4 include 1. Shifting our perspective from self-centeredness to other-centeredness. 2. Improving our relationship with ourselves, others, and our higher power or higher purpose. 3. Helping us mature and grow as human beings because we shunted our emotional growth, our eating disorders to numb ourselves and escape reality. 4. Establishing a list of flaws in our thinking, areas where we have been caught short in the past, so we can address these effectively. Step 4 is simply a fact-finding and fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about our lives. As long as we continue to mentally replay resentments, fears, or guilt feelings, we are focusing on what we don't want instead of what we need and want. These block us from our higher power or higher purpose. Completing a 4-step inventory begins a lifelong process of self-examination designed to help us develop the perspective needed for full and long-term recovery. Freedom that is the byproduct of taking responsibility for what we can address and willingness to work with others to achieve what we cannot do alone.
Thank you very much. People are often apprehensive or overwhelmed by the idea of writing a 4-step inventory. In this workshop, we break the process down into manageable parts. The EDA Big Book does say that if we are physically unsafe or emotionally unstable, our first order of business ought to be to seek professional help and or personal support so we can find enough safety and stability to work the steps. You're welcome to remain in this workshop even if you decide to postpone fully working the remaining steps.
Various 12-step programs present many different ways to complete a 4th-step inventory. EDA suggests we explore the following feelings: resentment, fear, self-pity, shame, guilt, harms done, confusion, frustration, and despair. Today, we will only focus on the first feeling, resentment. The homework this week will only relate to resentments. We use a 5-column format for the 4th-step inventory. If you've been doing spot check inventories and daily inventories, the 5-column format will be very familiar to you. Next, we will take a detailed look at the process of completing a resentment inventory. If you don't have the form we use, it can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. We begin by taking a piece of paper and brainstorming people, institutions, or principles that we feel resentful towards. On page 141, the EDA Big Book defines resentment this way. Resentment is usually an old, unresolved anger that lurks in the background of our minds, ready to jump out whenever an opportunity presents itself. Here's one example of a resentment brainstorm list. I've asked Elizabeth S. to read for us.
I'm Elizabeth, recovered from an eating disorder. So here's my brainstorm. Mother, Uncle Richard, oh yeah, the security guard at Lake Nelson Elementary, Daddy, Grandma Rachel, my 4th grade teacher, he was mean. Albert or Alfred, I don't remember his name, that 4th grade bully. And then Mr. Moses or something like that, the PE teacher my freshman year. Sandra, my baby sister, what a pill. My boss, Oliver, my oldest brother, the IRS, conspiracy theorists like Joanne, the eye surgeon who messed up my eyes, racists, Uncle Alex and his wife, but there's others too. Jenny, my middle sister. Oh yeah, the pastor's wife when I was 14 years old. Dr. Olson for not continuing as my doctor when I got my period. I really loved him. He was wonderful. My husband, of course. Beauty magazines, big game hunters, any of the intolerant religious people, advertisers and marketing people, vegans. Oh yeah, the zookeeper. I think I was just a little kid, but that zookeeper's got to be on the list. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. When you finish brainstorming, select 2 to 10 resentments. While EDA usually suggests you select your 10 most intense resentments, for the purposes of this workshop, especially if you don't have a therapist or a sponsor at this time, we suggest you select less intense resentments. In this slide, you can see a star has been placed next to only 10 resentments. Now we're ready to take a look at a blank resentment worksheet. This form was sent to you on Friday. If you don't have it for any reason, it can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. You will notice this form mirrors item 2 on the daily inventory form discussed in step 10. The items you select from your brainstorm list will go in the source column. It can be helpful, but not necessary, to have 10 copies of the blank form. Alternately, you can use a notebook where you draw in 5 columns. Then write one item in the source column on each of the 10 pages.
Let's use a simple resentment as an example. This is a true thing, I had a resentment against my friend Marge. You can see that the first 3 columns of my resentment inventory about my friend Marge are completed. As she was the source of my resentment, I wrote her name in the source column.
In the reason cause column, we write a brief statement as to what occurred that caused this resentment. Be specific and write what they did or did not do that upset us.
In my example, the reason for my resentment toward Marge is that Marge does not have a cell phone or an answering machine.
For the third column, at risk affects my, we ask what within myself is or was hurt, threatened, or interfered with by what I wrote in column 2. Was it my self-esteem, pride, ambition, finances, security, sexual or intimacy needs, or family and social relationships? Definitions for these terms can be found in the EDA Big Book, pages 143 to 144.
In my example, my ambition to get in touch with her easily was impacted. My social relationship with her is interfered with, as it's hard to plan getting together. Also, my self-esteem is threatened because I take her decision personally. My mind tells me if she cared about my friendship, she would get a smartphone or an answering machine. Now we're going to take a bit of a detour before going on with the remaining 2 columns. After completing the first 3 columns, the EDA program suggests that we recognize that others, like ourselves, can also be sick or very sick, spiritually and emotionally. Of course, this is not the case for every resentment. However, where applicable, the resentment prayer, also known as the sick person's prayer, offers a powerful tool to help find empathy and compassion, a possible new perspective for viewing their behavior. This prayer is discussed in the EDA Big Book on page 145 and is quoting the AA Big Book, page 67. And here's that prayer. This is a sick person. How can I be helpful to him or her? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. You can insert a person's name. For example, my sister Sally is a sick person. How can I be helpful to her? God, save me from being angry. Okay, now back to Marge. Now comes what may be the most challenging part of this process. We consider errors in our thinking and behaving that are keeping the resentment alive in ourselves today and write them in the 4th column under my error, my part. As you can see on the slide, I saw the following. I am being selfish as I'm angry Marge is not behaving the way I want her to. Dishonest, because I'm telling myself she is harming me, telling myself I am right and she is wrong. Dishonest, telling myself I try very hard to find her at home. The truth is I usually try one time and give up instead of trying her multiple times at different times of day. Fear, our friendship may not be sustainable. Self-seeking, complaining about her to others. If you're stuck and can't determine what to write in any column, that's okay. Just leave it blank and ask for help from your EDA support system. Let's review definitions of 4 common shortcomings or character defects used in my error, my part column. I have asked Laura W. to read for us.
Hey, I'm Laura. I'm recovering from an eating disorder in Chesapeake, Virginia. The big four of my error, my part: selfishness, thinking of my own needs and wants while minimizing others' needs and wants, being upset that others are not doing what I want or not doing things my way. Self-seeking, saying or doing things to try to get what I want, manipulating, forcing, controlling. Dishonesty, lying, dishonesty through omissions, dishonesty with myself. Fear, threat of loss of what I have or fear of not getting what I want. You may identify and include any other errors you become aware of, such as self-pity, perfectionism, jealousy, disrespect, lack of trust in self or God or higher power or higher purpose, annoyance or worry. Write these down as well in the My Error, My Part column. It's important to make a note of anything that helps you accept your part in the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. You can refer to Appendix D of the EDA Big Book for more examples.
We have one more column to complete, the 5th column, resolution. To complete this column, consider what kindly and tolerant view of myself and others can help take appropriate action now and avoid inappropriate reactions in the future. What would restore balance and bring peace to the situation? What can I do that permits me to move forward with dignity and integrity from here? What can I do if a similar situation arises in the future? What am I willing to do right now? What helpful attitude can I now assume or aspire towards? Remember the resentment prayer. Do I owe an amends? Note, finding resolutions can be a challenge. Remember, you can consult God, your higher power or higher purpose, your sponsor, and your EDA peers to find perspective and ideas about actions and attitudes that can restore dignity, integrity, peace, and safety, both in the short and long term.
Now for the big reveal, the resolution column, which completes the example about Marge. First, I can accept that Marge walks to the beat of a different drummer, and this is actually one of the things I like about her. I can be more persistent in calling to set up getting together and ask her what times am I most likely to catch her at home. I can practice love and tolerance. I can remind myself that none of her friends or her family have better access to her. This is not personal.
Let's take a 3-minute stretch break, and when we come back, we will look at a couple of completed resentment worksheets. I am setting my timer for 3 minutes. See you in a minute. Welcome back. Now we have 2 more examples of resentment inventory work. I want to thank the EDA members who submitted these examples from their lives for our use today. I've asked Kathy G. to read the first example for us.
The source of my resentment is my eye surgeon. The reason or cause? He costs a lot more than I was led to believe. Messed up the surgery on my second eye and chatted with his staff during critical procedures. At risk affects my finances, drained my savings, self-esteem. I feel damaged. Now it's time for the resentment prayer. The eye surgeon is a sick person. How can I be helpful to him? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. My error, my part. Didn't research the cost enough. Got nothing in writing. Failed to make any formal complaint that might have protected their future clients. Failed to believe in my own perception of what was going on, so stuck around for 3 frustrating years. Resolution: forgive myself. Forgive the doctor. Use the resentment prayer. Let it go and move on. Get another ophthalmologist. Consider reporting this doctor to his professional association.
Thank you, Kathy. I've asked Melissa W. to read the next example.
All right. Hi, Melissa. I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. The source of my resentment is my boss. The reason or cause: he corrected me in front of clients. At risk affects my pride. People don't think I know what I'm doing. My self-esteem: do I know what I'm doing? My personal relationships: I'm cold towards him as a result. Financial security: he could fire me. And my ambition: I want to be the favorite, always doing things right, always knowing. My error, my part: dishonest. I am telling myself he is wanting to embarrass me and make me look bad. I fear people will think I'm not qualified. I fear that I'm not doing a good enough job as an employee. And I fear that I am easily replaceable. The resolution: pray for humility. Take his directions cheerfully. This is an opportunity to learn and grow, not shrink with fear. Speak up. Ask him if he would mind pulling me aside to correct me instead of doing it in front of clients. I can tell myself that he may very well be trying to help me be better at my job and uphold the quality of his business.
Thank you, Melissa.
Let's thank Kathy and Melissa. Great job, guys. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions about this process? If so, please raise your digital hand. Deborah, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Hi. So my question is, one of the earlier slides where we're doing, it says something about there's a little asterisk and saying the resentment prayer. And I was trying to understand when that was recommended, because it says something like before this column, say the resentment prayer. So I was just wanted to understand that.
Sure. Actually, you can say the resentment prayer anytime you're feeling a resentment, even when you're not doing column work. But the idea would be, it's hard to look at your own part when someone has really offended you. So before you do column 4 is a nice time to say it.
Okay. All right. Maybe I didn't see
it. Down, let you focus on yourself because we're not taking the other person's inventory. Great question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Jenny H.
Hi. Thanks for calling on me. Nice to meet you. I was wondering if you could speak at all to a couple of things. One, the idea of selfish. I think when I've filled out my resentments in the past, sometimes like everything becomes some version of selfishness. And then I start feeling shame. And then it just kind of goes into that spiral. And then also, as far as like in one of the examples you gave with the dentist, where they were like, oh, I should have gone back and reported it for other people. So the my part thing, I think that's come up for me before in different inventories around like childhood abuse. And then like, oh, I should have reported that person because now maybe all these other people are still suffering, but maybe I'm not ready to take that leap. So I was wondering if you could share your opinion on that.
Oh, opinions. Those are dangerous. Okay.
Or experience.
If the word selfish is I find it an extremely useful word because I define it as being angry that I didn't get what I want or that you didn't do what I want. So I have a very simple definition that works for me. But if that definition brings up feelings of shame, just don't use it. And a good substitute is lack of acceptance. Instead
Okay.
of saying I'm selfish, saying I'm lacking acceptance about reality. It happened. Does that
Okay.
help with that question?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thanks.
then the eye doctor not reporting it. I'm so sorry to hear about your abuse. Certainly reporting abuse is difficult. EDA does suggest that we report abuse, particularly if there's present danger to others. It is a suggestion. We each need to do what feels safe and reasonable. Thank you for your question. Okay, we have a lot of hands. I don't think we can take all of them right now, so I'm going to take 2 more and ask everyone else to hold till later in the workshop. So I'm going to take Zara and then Esther. Go ahead, Zara.
Thank you, Regina. Hi, I'm Zara. I'm recovering from an eating disorder. First, thank you all for this workshop. I really like it. I have a question about the dishonesty in the last example. There was the thought that I'm being dishonest when I guess that people want to do me any harm. I can't make the connection because I know the feeling. I have it very on a regular basis when I have a resentment, and I think people want to do something bad to me or want to harm me, but I don't get it why I'm being dishonest. I just know being dishonest when I'm lying to me, when I'm doing some behavior, I know exactly, but maybe you can tell me something about this connection. Thank you.
Yeah, the connection is that I'm believing it because I don't know for sure. Maybe they are and maybe they're not, but I'm acting as if maybe they are, as if they are. So the dishonesty is like this some sureness that they're out to get me.
Okay.
When
Thank
really
you.
it's like, the truth is, I don't know. Instead of, it's like that acting is the pride of thinking I know at what other people are thinking. Thank you for your question. Esther.
Yes, hi. My question is about in terms of the inventories that it says that there are multiple, that there's resentment, fear, self-pity, shame, etc. We're only working on resentment right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that was my question.
We're going to do fear next week, and we're going to do the other 6 the following week. Thank you. We're going to do a complete change of topics now. We're going to talk about abuse. We wanted to address abuse in some detail in this workshop. If you're uncomfortable with this topic, step away for 5 or 6 minutes now. There are 2 examples of resentments related to abuse provided in the handout that goes with this workshop, week 6. We wanted to offer these as abuse as a common resentment, but we're not going to read these examples together today, but you have them if you wish to refer to them. What we will do now is share some thoughts about this important topic, and Louise has offered to read the following 6 slides.
Thanks, Regina. My name's Louise. I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. Some thoughts on abuse. Although we are not recommending participants focus on this particular type of resentment during the workshop, the following ideas may be helpful. Many people in EDA have experienced abuse: physical, sexual, emotional, spiritual. The effects of abuse, such as shame, self-loathing, PTSD, and avoidance of intimacy, are the source of great suffering. EDA should not be considered a sole method for healing from abuse. Abuse is a good example of where qualified professionals are often an important part of eating disorder recovery. Also, there are other 12-step programs which many abuse survivors find helpful. As we tell our stories in EDA, we find acceptance, compassion, and shared experience. Shared experience, however, can also sometimes be upsetting. So if abuse is discussed in this workshop, we ask that it be discussed without graphic detail. Let us be clear. 1, having a resentment against one's abuser is understandable and natural. 2, abusers are 100% responsible for their own actions and reactions. 3. While abuse survivors bear no responsibility for their own abuse, survivors can choose to make the effort to heal. 4. While some people have chosen not to write anything in the My Error column when the resentment is about abuse, others find it important to identify something that they now want to change, i.e., it is important to validate my feelings, but when I get stuck there, it can cripple current relationships. 5. If you decide to inventory abuse, please contemplate the resentment prayer for each perpetrator. Some have found that delving deeply into this prayer has offered significant insight and healing. It is important to accept that the world and its people can be willfully cruel, and to affirm there are no reasons that justify abuse, regardless of any compassion we may find. Survivors of abuse want to get help for many reasons. Forgiveness is not required for you to move forward in peace. Nobody needs to aspire to anything lofty to restore dignity. The points below are offered as examples of reasons for seeking help cited by some survivors. Don't be concerned if none of these applies to your situation. Your own truth is what matters here. I don't want my abuser to have any power over me today. I am suffering and want to be free. My anger at my abuser is dictating how I live my life today. I am open to letting go of anything that hampers my full recovery. Forgiveness is part of my spiritual path. I would like to think about my abuse less. I feel re-traumatized whenever I do. I would like to leave the role of judge to God. My abuser is now sober, elderly, and I want a relationship with him or her. While the title of the column, My Error, My Part, may not sit well, since the victim of abuse has no responsibility for the abuse, it is empowering to list ways in which our own thinking continues to cause trouble. Some examples: blaming myself or thinking I had any responsibility for my abuse, not realizing that my resentment is harming me. I have trouble trusting myself and others because my emotions remain unaddressed, not recognizing my abuser was a very sick person that I was unable to help, believing that if I let go of my anger, it means that what was done to me was okay. It was not okay. It will never be okay.
Thank you very much, Louise. We took time today to talk about abuse, as it is not an uncommon experience for many EDA members. Now we're going to talk about forgiveness, which does not just pertain to abuse, but to the entire 4-step process.
While EDA does not require forgiveness, for the sake of your own freedom, you may decide you want to aim for forgiveness or work towards it as part of your resolution. While it may seem impossible to achieve, the unexpected does happen in this program. If nothing else, your perspective may change and you may feel differently. Now it's time to talk about the homework. Continue to use your 3rd-step prayer or commitment daily, and continue to perform your daily Step 10 and Step 11 practices. Complete your resentment brainstorm list. Don't throw away this list. You'll want to refer to it when you get to Step 8. Select 2 to 10 resentments and complete your resentment worksheets. The samples we have provided, as well as those found in the EDA Big Book, Appendix D, will be helpful. Attend as many EDA meetings as you can. Call at least one person from this workshop or the EDA Fellowship between now and your next session. Read about Step 4 in the EDA Big Book, pages 132 to 148. To wrap up, do your best, but don't aim to do any of this perfectly. Like anything else, inventory work gets easier and improves with practice. What's important is your willingness to get started.
Thank you, Ed. And thank you to everyone who read for us today. In the next part of this workshop, everyone is encouraged to ask questions, claim milestones, or share. Please raise your digital hand if you wish to speak and limit your share to 2 minutes. All right, Deborah.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Deborah. Grateful, so grateful to be recovering with you all. You know what? As I felt moved to share something with you all that's in the Big Book, AA's Big Book, which is before that prayer, which might help put things into context. The resentment prayer, and so this is the paragraph. This was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too, spiritually sick or whatever. We asked God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended us, we said to ourselves, this is our prayer, this is a sick man or person. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry, thy will be done. So anyway, I was just hoping that I just wanted to offer that as another angle to think about them, and where we might be able to come from. So anyway, thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, thanks, Deborah. Gail.
Thanks, Regina. Hi, everybody. I'm Gail, recovering from an eating disorder in Williamsburg, Virginia. Also about the resentment prayer. First of all, I really like what Deborah just shared. That actually may be better than what I'm going to suggest, but I was thinking instead of saying a sick person, you could just say this person is human. If it's your abuser, you may want to say sick. And another replacement could be this person is a child of God, if you're very religious and realize that we're all kind of the same. So that's all I wanted to offer. Thank you. And thank you so much for this workshop.
Thank you, Gail. Julianne.
Hi, just wanted to share, thank you so much for how delicately and sensitively you did the bit on abuse. I really appreciate that myself. Just somebody was asking there about how to go about reporting. Obviously, it's different in different countries. So just a note on Ireland is that if you work with people who are vulnerable, you have to report, even if it doesn't got to do anything with the area you work in. So I think my own experience of reporting is that it can be extremely healing if you have the right support about you. And that would definitely be outside help of maybe a counsellor or somebody who is an expert on that type of issue that you're dealing with. And I suppose just to be incredibly gentle with yourself, but also kind of look at the whole legal side of things as well, or whatever else is going on. And that there are definitely people who've been through it here, like the reporting thing. And it's just to be incredibly gentle, because you will have people who might give you a hard time if you do, and might give you a hard time if you don't. But there is people out there who are amazing at helping that support. So that would be something to look into. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Julianne. And I want to emphasize from what you shared that certainly if you're making that difficult phone call, you can have people with you right in the room holding your hand. Not an easy phone call to make. Okay. It's the same here in the US. There are professions that are mandated reporters. And it may vary slightly from state to state. I'm not sure. Okay, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura, living with an eating disorder. And my milestone is, first of all, that I'm here today. I wasn't able to make it for the last 2 times. And I didn't make it an all or nothing thing. Well, all right, I can't make it, so let's not do it again. So I'm glad to be here, but I'm also grateful to hear so many other people have problems with the resentment prayer, because I too have had problems with that. I can totally understand it in an abuse situation, but let's face it, my spouse is on that resentment sheet a lot. And so it's, I like saying they're like someone already has said, it's another human being just like myself. And just say this is a person with a prayer. You guys have given great ideas, and I'm glad to know that I wasn't alone struggling with this resentment prayer, that I felt like I was being judgmental by saying this person is. So now I don't have that. So thank you.
Great. So Laura, maybe I need to clarify for everyone. I rarely use the resentment prayer, only if I really think So that my husband's on there alone. He's a very nice guy. But I really only use it if I really think that is a sick person. It's not something I do every single time I do an inventory. Nor do I think the literature is suggesting that we do that. Okay. But wonderful to have this discussion. Audrey.
So approaching the fourth step, a lot of people have said, and you'll hear it in the rooms, at least I have, oh no, you're on the fourth step, or watch out, you're on the fourth step. Things will be revealed. And honestly, the fourth step, I want to embrace it with all that I can, because for me, the fourth step is going to be part of the healing in my journey. And I need to, and I'd like to look at the fourth step as not a performance-based step that I need to perform this perfectly, or I need to write everything perfectly, or I need to choose the correct words perfectly. It's one of those inventories where, yeah, I want to be honest with myself, and but I don't want to put so much pressure on myself that when I share it with my sponsor, or I share it with someone, that I'm going to be in that performance based, like, oh no, so petrified that, I'm going to get an F on the paper or something like that. But I do want to claim a milestone, and my milestone really is that I was able to get out of my comfort zone, thank you God, and be of service to someone who really, really needed it. And for that, this program works. This is a healing program for me, and slowly by little, it's working. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey, and congratulations on your milestone. All right. Nada.
Hi, Regina. Thanks for your service. I just have a question. I'm a bit confused between step 4 and step 10. Like, same has to work with inventory. So, yeah, I'm a bit confused about that.
Good question. So the 10 daily inventory, in number 2 there's a lot of overlap between number 2 and the daily inventory and the 4 step. But usually what you're looking at in a daily inventory is something that happened during the course of the day. In a 4 step, this week when I'm doing resentments, it'll be resentments from practically birth to the present, if that makes sense. So these are old, dusty, moldy resentments that have held on. And people often ask, well, I've done a 4-step inventory and I did these people, do I have to do them again now in this EDA workshop? And I say, only if you're still angry at them.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you.
Elise? Thank you, Nada. Elise.
Hi. So just a couple of things. One thing is, I think for me, so going into, I kind of cringed when you said abuse, and then I was like, okay, sometimes you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I've heard that many times. And, but for me, it takes me all the way to the more on eating disorders when it says we blame those we loved most for our agony. So as a child, I dealt with verbal abuse from my father, and he was just here visiting me. He left yesterday, and never in my life have we been together for 2 straight days and not argued, and we were. And what it reminded me was not only what this program has given me, but what AA has given him. And it doesn't mean anything that he's perfect or I'm perfect, but that there is healing and there is hope.
Thank you so much for your honest share. Judy.
Okay, thank you. My name is Judy. I have a desire to recover from an eating disorder. And so I'm a little embarrassed, but I'll just be honest and say, like, I have resentments all day long. Oh, this person driving too fast. This person's driving too slow. This person's driving the same speed, so I can't change lanes. Just all day long. but they're like super shallow. And I just say, oh, that person's human, or who am I to be in charge of like, what's the exact right drive? I mean, whatever. And so all day long, these things pop up, and all day long, I go through whatever. But then I just think, well, how do I like remove denial, or how do I be more honest with myself, or how do I, instead of just saying, oh, I'm just accepting and loving and I have no resentments. And I mean, that can't be true. And I think maybe like, how do I make myself be willing to do the deep work?
Well, you may have more recovery than you think if you're letting go of the small stuff, letting it run off you, and you take a breath, you pause. I will be done, finished. So, I mean, that's great. You know, if you can't even barely remember it by the time you have time to inventory it further, you'll know which ones need closer attention. So I think it's great and everybody has resentments come up all day long. I like to describe it, if you step on my toe, I'm going to be angry at you for a moment, for a minute, for 3 minutes. But if an hour later, I'm still angry at you, that's a resentment. Okay. So we're all human. We have initial flares of temper. Was that helpful, Judy?
It was very encouraging. It's a little, I'm not that gentle on myself, so it's nice to hear your kind words. Thank you.
Marie Kay.
Okay, hi there. I've actually completed my step 4 and 5 with my sponsor. We actually did them simultaneously. So I wrote a bit, shared a bit, wrote a bit, shared a bit, which was really helpful. And I was just thinking about the sick person. I didn't say the resentment every single time. And the way I thought of, and I still think of the sick person, it was either in that moment of that behavior, that negative behavior towards me, or that time and place. For example, my abuser suffered at that time from depression. You know, she was mentally ill. She can be mentally ill now at times. And it helped to relieve me of some of my resentment, my bitterness, and my anger towards those people. But it also helped me to forgive myself, to forgive the child that I was that couldn't extricate myself from the situations that I was in. So I found that, that term quite useful and it became in the end, for me, it's become in the end quite helpful.
Marie, thank you very much for your share. Right now, I'm going to ask Ed to close us out. Go ahead, Ed.
Sure, Regina. Volunteers are selected prior to the start of each workshop. Next week, please consider joining us 10 to 15 minutes early to volunteer because we need a lot of volunteers. Anonymity reminder, please do not share who you've seen here or what others have shared here. 7th tradition. We have no dues or fees, and this workshop is offered at no cost. However, EDA has expenses and donations are welcome. We hope you will consider a minimum donation of $14 for this 14-week workshop. To donate, go to the EDA website and select the Support tab. If you wish to, please join me in saying the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you, Ed.
We hope you enjoyed today's workshop. More information about Eating Disorders Anonymous can be found at 4eda.org, number 4eda.org. The handouts for this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. We encourage you to check out one or more of the many EDA Zoom or in-person meetings. Many of us have found recovery from our eating disorders in these meetings and hope that you will too. Until next time.